Frustration over the IRS targeting scandal hitting the boiling point. Commissioner John Koskinen has testified the agency lost Lois Lerner's emails because of a computer crash. Republicans not all buying that explanation, and now lawmakers are waiting to see an inspector general's report on that damaged hard drive. Could this report give them some answers? Well, Tammy Bruce is a radio talk show host and Fox News contributor. Emily Tish Sussman is the campaign director at the Center for American Progress Action Fund, also the former executive director of Young Democrats of America. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, let's look at the timing here. In 2011, the House Ways and Means Chair Dave Camp sends a letter to the IRS asking about conservative targeting. 10 days after this, Lerner's hard drive allegedly crashes. There were backup tapes. Apparently no attempt was made to retrieve the data from those tapes for 6 months, and after 6 months they're recycled. And in fact, 2 months after this alleged crash, the IRS canceled the contract of the company in charge of backing up that data, Sonasoft, without ever asking them to retrieve the data. Tammy, is this fishy to you?
Well, it is, and as a matter of fact, a new poll, a Fox News poll, shows that over 70% of Americans, obviously across political lines, believe not only is that this is not true, but that the emails were destroyed deliberately. So this comes down to an actual existential issue for the federal government. It's about the rule of law and about legitimacy. So Americans, it's one thing to have a political fight, and maybe that's what certainly the administration thinks it's going to be, that it's just about, well, we can do this because we're targeting conservatives. But Americans overall, Democrats and Republicans, understandably don't like it when such corruption is so obvious, because this is a law enforcement agency, and everyone is touched by it.
Emily, ordinary citizens are saying if the IRS asked for my documents and I said my computer crashed, I'd be in big trouble. So how troubling is this, and shouldn't it be troubling to Democrats as well?
Look, that concept should be troubling, but the fact that these two things, the fact that a letter was requested to the IRS and then it crashed 2 months later, there is no evidence they are related. The issue in question, that the letter that went to the IRS, is generally about C4s and donors. It is not about this targeting. PolitiFact actually gave that concept 3 Pinocchios. Like, these two things are just not related. This is trying to gin up a scandal when there really isn't any. This is something that Republicans feel like they've been getting credibility on, they've been getting people ginned up on. It sort of leads into their larger narrative that this government is after you. So they felt like it was something they could get political capital off of. And now they're going nuts trying to keep it going, and this just keeps that going. But there's no connection there.
All right, Tammy, there are apparently emails not lost in the crash that show that Lerner did contact the IT department after allegedly finding a blue screen when she arrived at work one day. I mean, is it possible that this really just was a legitimate crash and one had nothing to do with the other?
Well, this is why the Inspector General report's important, because otherwise some of us do have to speculate based on the circumstantial evidence that we're seeing. Democrats, everyone, should be really pulling for these investigations to occur, so that if this was all just some kind of big, weird coincidence, that we'll find out. So the Inspector General can only do so much. Look, you've got a dynamic where the American people believe that the IRS deliberately destroyed evidence. And if you've got an Inspector General, that's going to be pretty hard to get a real decent report done in that environment. A special investigator has to come in so that the Democrats can be proven correct, or everyone has an interest in the truth of this coming out. I still remain concerned that there's an attempt to make this a partisan issue when this is a law enforcement, legitimate issue of the rule of law, corruption, possible crime, the Fifth Amendment being taken, emails being destroyed. None of it looks good to the American people.
Emily, Congressman Louis Gohmert is proposing a bill offering $1 million to anyone who can somehow recover these emails, $500,000 for information on who destroyed them. What do you think? Is Congress going to pass this? Does it have any chance of helping?
No, I think it has zero chance of being passed. I think this is vigilantism. This is headline grabbing. This is a Louis Gohmert special, right? Putting something out there that is so far out there that is headline grabbing, but he's really not to the middle of the party. He's really not, he's not where mainstream America is. It actually is going to be interesting as we move forward and we get closer to the elections. People don't love politicians to come in and say, I will never work across the aisle. I will only vilify the opposite party, right? like as we get closer to elections, they want to hear politicians saying, yes, I can come together in a reasonable way, I can work across the aisle, I can pass laws. People are going to start to get really sick of just hearing that Congress spent all of their time on an investigation that really went nowhere. So I actually think we will start to see some of the language change as we get closer to the election.
Let's let Tammy in.
Just really quickly, I think that getting these emails, I think you should want to have us get them, because then it can stop all this arguing. It's a very interesting problem when you also don't want the evidence to be retrieved. The bottom line is, I like the idea, but I want it to be in the private sector. Let's crowdfund a reward for those emails, give immunity to everyone who comes forward, and then the Democrats and everyone can be pleased that they've been proven correct. Bottom line is, we've got to get this done, and we've got to get to the truth.
Tammy Bruce, Emily Tish Sussman, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.